at Richard Cranium. Okay.
You get that? Did you get it?
No.
He's a dickhead.
Oh, sure enough. All right.
Way to go. You got her.
You got me. Okay, just curious. Is it better to have a good-looking woman lawyer at trial or a dude? I have an opinion.
All right. Well, I want to hear your opinion first.
Okay, so we are the Arms Attorneys. Today we are doing a questions grab bag. You leave us questions. Sometimes we answer them with full videos, and sometimes we cry softly into our pillows at night about the things you say to us, and then we decide to address the questions directly on camera. And that is what we've got today. So before we begin,
Happy Monday, y'all.
okay, all right, Richard. So we did not take our harshest critics today.
What? Those are usually the most fun.
I know. Y'all can be mean. So we got,
I like it. It fuels me.
does it?
Oh, it gives me energy.
Oh boy. I can only be called a so-called lawyer so many times in a single day.
Sure.
All right, so here we go. Let's start with a criticism.
Sure. Malcolm
right.
X 22. Why do you keep calling these rifles assault weapons? It's totally incorrect. It's not a full automatic capable. It's not an assault weapon. Please stop this misinformation.
Please stop this misinformation. All right, listen up, Malcolm. We agree that assault weapon is an entirely made-up term. However, it also appears in state law in what are legitimately black and white statutorily called assault weapons bans. And we only use that term when it is the legal term written into some crazy state's law.
Yeah, I would say another one to kind of tag onto this is like high capacity magazines, air quotes for listeners.
Yes.
Obviously
We know.
standard capacity magazine, but some states call them high capacity magazines.
That is absolutely right. So, as good officers of the court, we are well aware that words matter, and words matter not just when you're using some crazy made-up word that the left likes to use, but also when it's actually what is written into the law. So we are very careful about that. That's why we do it the way that we do it. You might not like it, but we have a reason. That's what we do.
But it'd also be difficult for folks to find the law if we said, hey, this unicorn magazine law. They're not going to be able to find that.
That is true.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This one is from Bruce Santos, 5566. What if I report my gun stolen?
So this was in response to our video on basically having your name tied to your firearm and how you could, whether it was wise to engage only in private sales or to have guns that were actually registered, quote unquote, in your name. So what if you report your gun stolen? What happens to your name being associated with said gun? The answer is your name's still there.
Yeah.
Right? Your name is still there. However, that firearm will be entered into the lost and stolen gun database. So if it gets recovered somewhere, they're doubly going to know that it belongs to you, right? Because you registered it as lost or stolen.
Yeah, so that
They're
database.
going to say, hey, Bruce.
Yeah, we have the National Crime Information Center. It queries all these different databases like, hey, are you an illegal alien? Hey, is this thing in the lost and stolen property database? Hey, state of Texas, what's the criminal history of this person? So all these databases feed into this master thing, and whenever they query, let's say, a serial number of a firearm, if it's in that database, yeah, the name's going to come up.
Yeah. Jeff.
Oh, yeah, this kind of piggybacks on the next one.
It does. What happens if you falsely declare your guns were stolen or lost? Don't do that.
Yeah, virtually a crime in every state.
Yes, because you are lying. In Texas, it is a false report to a peace officer. I don't know. Do you think that there's some federal offense regarding, because it is getting, first of all, the federal government has a law against everything. So I would imagine, and I say this not having done the research ahead of time, I would imagine that there is some out there somewhere federal statute about knowingly giving false information which causes an entry into a federal database.
Right.
I mean, you know Whether or not they prosecute it, they've got something like that. They got a law for everything.
Did you transmit it over a telephone?
Oh yeah, in that case, guess what?
Did you call 911 when you made the report?
Wire fraud. Yeah. Everything is wire fraud.
Yeah.
It's the first thing they teach you in law school when you talk about white collar crime.
Yeah.
Everything is wire fraud.
So, don't be making false reports to police officers. You know what makes me mad about that statute? Not that you can't make a false report to a police officer, but who gets charged with that crime? It's people who make complaints to police departments. That's how that law is normally enforced. Like, everybody thought, hey, we don't want people calling in fake crimes, but really it's, oh, you made a complaint with the police department that it violated your rights. You missaid this thing. That's a false report.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely true. It is almost never enforced except for when the police are mad at you for something.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate because, we have complainants who lie all the time.
Yeah.
We have people lying on my guys all the time. That's why we're in court. However, it is never, ever, ever going to be prosecuted in that way.
All right, I really like this question. This is Ted Jones, 112. If someone owns multiple handguns and one is used in a self-defense shooting, do they try to take all the guns?
Yeah, so sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. We've addressed this, I think, in a previous video, but it's a good reminder, which is, so they shouldn't. They shouldn't. However, I can tell you when I have had instances in which my client has a shooting in the home, I have had police get warrants for all of the firearms in the home. And then here's the really crappy part about that is then when you're like trying to get them released, first of all, judges are loath because the state's like, it's evidence of something. They tried to argue against my client that it was evidence of his like crazy pro-gun nature, basically. And the judges were not going to release them before trial because they're going to make the determination in trial as to whether or not all those other firearms are admissible. Luckily, in that case, they said they were not. But so that's number one. Number two is once you are indicted, once you are placed on bond, which one of your bond conditions is going to be no possession of the firearms, great. Let's say I could go get a court to say, all these guns need to be released. To who?
Yeah, to who?
You can't have them.
Yeah, the one situation, I'll say most of the time, in my experience, the overwhelming majority of the time, they're only taking the firearm that's in the immediate vicinity of the actor at the time.
That is more common.
That is way more common. For that reason, let's say, I'll just give an example. You have a defensive incident inside of your home, scene is safe, firearm on table, good to go. In that situation, I would anticipate only that firearm would be confiscated as evidence of a potential crime. I did have a client one time after a shooting go place a gun in the safe with all of his other guns, and the police, and he didn't have a massive collection. I think he had 5 or 6 guns. They took all of them because they didn't know the caliber yet. They didn't know which gun was the self-defense gun. They didn't know any of that stuff. So in that scenario, I would say scene safe. Don't commingle it with your other firearms. That would greatly reduce the chances of all your guns getting confiscated.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We have at Greg Pervians. Greg. We'll go with Greg. All right. Is the gun-free school zone thing is it still a thing? Right?
Yeah.
That's not your exact question, but I'll say, is gun-free school zone still a thing? The answer is yeah, big time. However, right, you have this idea that you cannot have a firearm within 1,000 feet of a school unless you fall into an exception, the most common one being that you have a license or permit from the state in which the school sits. There are other exceptions as well, but that is most common.
Yeah, let's say you have property within 1,000 feet. You're on your own property. That's fine.
But that being said, how many times have you seen that enforced?
0.
I have seen it enforced 0 times. It is a thing, technically.
Yeah, the only time just looking at, I go on, the lawyers have access to kind of crazy search databases for criminal cases and things that are going online. The time that I see the gun-free school zones prohibition come up is always people selling drugs around a school and they are also possessing a firearm. Just my glance at a couple 100 cases, that seems to be the only times I've seen that enforced recently.
I agree. That is the only time I have seen it enforced as well.
So if you're not a drug dealer, good news.
Yeah. Gosh. All right. We have at John Funky. What do you think about having a license in more than one state? What do you think?
I think it's a good idea if you travel to that. Let's say your home state, they don't recognize your license or permit into a state that you frequently travel. obtaining a license or permit from that state that you travel into, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think there is an instance I can think of where it is going to hurt you to have multiple licenses. Now, do I have?
It's expensive sometimes.
Well, yes. I mean, other than like your time, your monies, but other like, I mean, I only have a Texas license.
Yeah.
However, that's just due to laziness.
Sure.
That's all
You're
that
just
is.
lazy.
You're just lazy. So, all right, at Richard Cranium. Okay.
You get that? Did you get it?
No.
He's a dickhead.
Oh, sure enough. All right.
Way to go. You got her.
You got me. Okay, just curious. Is it better to have a good-looking woman lawyer at trial or a dude? I have an opinion.
All right. Well, I want to hear your opinion first.
Okay, so I when I was a law student was walking around the Galveston County Courthouse, going to the asbestos docket of all places, because I did not even know that I was going to be a criminal lawyer at that point. And one of those old gray-headed, been practicing on Galveston Island criminal defense attorneys that we all know,
Yep.
stopped me in the middle of the courthouse and said, "You need to be a criminal defense attorney." And I was like, "Why?" And they were like, "You need to sit next to a violent, disgusting rapist and tell the jury that he didn't do it and he's a good guy." And I was like, okay. And here I am.
Sitting next to you don't have any sex assault cases.
No, I don't take sex cases. I don't like them. And I don't take thieves because I don't think you'll pay me.
Sure. I don't take counterfeiters, and you know why.
Yeah. No. Sure enough, we all line.
We all got our drop. Line in the same.
Okay. So, but yes, I do think there are cases in which having a female lawyer is extraordinarily helpful. Particularly like, just like looks like she's, just kind of your normal, like, I'm just a suburb mom, right?
Yeah.
So if I think you're cool and that you're not a cold-blooded murderer, you really acted in self-defense, I think that's helpful. But also, there's like those stories about lawyers who will intentionally go like trip and make themselves like kind of like,
yeah, you hear those stories where like the lawyer takes his shoe off in the courtroom and starts packing it full of cardboard because he has a hole in it.
Yeah, like there are also like sometimes like lawyers like want to look weird and goofy and schleppy in front of a jury for juror sympathy. So maybe that works too. I don't know. What do you think?
So, I will say I wish that our juries were more sophisticated animals that, pay close attention to the evidence, take their oath seriously, take the law, apply the facts faithfully, and come to a rational decision. But most of the time they're just saying who's right and who's wrong. And I'll say having an advocate that is more relatable is because it goes both male and female. I say having a relatable advocate that seems just kind of like a normal person that's trying to, hey, I need your help in explaining this situation or, rendering a decision here. I mean, to Edwin Walker's credit, not a hot female lawyer, he is one of the most personable human beings in front of a jury.
He can pick the hell out of a jury. He really can. So, yes, I mean, I think, right, top of your list should be a smart lawyer.
Yeah,
right?
somebody, you win more your battles in the library than anywhere else.
But the next should be a lawyer who is genuine with the jury, because like, you can have the best looking lawyer out there, but if the jury doesn't, if the jury doesn't buy their bullshit, then you've got a problem. We know a guy, and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about.
Is it a guy?
It's a dat boy.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So he is not from rural Texas, but he will pretend that he is, and in a $5,000 suit will stand up before a jury and put on this country boy shtick, and juries don't buy it, and then people get convicted because you have to be smart and you have to be yourself, and that is far more important than like having a bombshell lawyer.
Well, we worked with a prosecutor. He had a different accent in the office than outside of the office. And why you need to have somebody who is their true self, juries. It's all about trust. You put on a facade. If the facade falls for 1 second, juries immediately don't trust you. So he would, same thing, kind of put on a country boy accent. I saw him in trial. It dropped for a couple of minutes, and he lost his case. Big surprise. It's because, guess what? Hey, man, we can't trust you. You can't even be a real human being.
Right. That's exactly right.
So These are some fun ones.
These are fun ones. See, I picked good ones.
You did pick.
Yeah.
These are Emily picked out her questions today.
Yes.
But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And leave more questions. We're going to do some more of these. They're fun. We like them. I hope you like them too. Until next time, we're the Arms Attorneys.